Howdy doody, Tim.
Hello, Zach. How are you?
Doing well. I know you're going to a networking event shortly after this, and you go to a lot of networking events. What do you think is the worst networking approach that you've actually seen, not Hollywood style, but that you've actually seen, and maybe even recently that you're like, ooh, that's a pretty bad approach on how to do this?
I am not a fan of the card collectors or the card passer outers. I mean, like that, yeah. Hey, do you have
It
a
is.
card? Like, not even like they don't even know my name. We don't even know each other's names. So, hey, do you got a card? And they're already handing me theirs. And typically from that point, it just goes right in the trash. But
It's very odd when that's like the first thing that someone does, because it seems almost like, okay, that's not possible. No one's that silly to do that. But then they come around and they just got like stacks and stacks of them. They just come out and they're like, yo, here you go, here you go, here you go,
yeah,
here you go, here you go. Yeah. Obviously, you know what mine is. Mine is a bad first questions. I think that people are terrible at their first questions. I think that they care way too much about the person's business instead of the person. And by leading with, hey, what do you do for a living? It's just so unnecessary, in my opinion.
yeah.
Um, but enough about me, enough about you. Let's bring on today's guest, someone that I actually met at a networking event maybe 4 years ago. It was an event hosted by the guys over at Array Digital. Tim, you might have been there as well. It was Marketers Anonymous, which was
Oh, yeah. Over at
educational.
Waterside.
Yep.
Yep.
Educational plus, a networking
Yeah.
aspect of it. Is that correct? Is that where we met, Markella?
Yeah.
What made
You
you
were the
want?
host.
I spoke that day.
You were the host. Yep. I bought your book.
See,
I was sold from day one.
hey, and I just happen to have that book right here on the
Oh my
desk.
gosh! Look at that.
Funny how
Product
that
placement.
Honestly, usually it's in
Okay.
the bookshelf behind me, but today I just happen to have it there because I was looking at something. Actually, I'm lying. I haven't looked at this book in like 5 days because I haven't done any work in 4 or 5 days because it's, we had that like fake holiday long weekend type of thing.
That's right.
So what made you want, what were you gonna say, Tim?
I wasn't going to say anything. I was just like you trying to figure out what day of the week it is. I just,
Like, okay, so like I live right on the path to go to the Outer Banks. That road gets pretty gnarly some days. It gets pretty backed up to the extent where before you leave, depending on where you need to go, you actually need to look. Like if it's a weekend, it can be pretty backed up, even though we're 70 miles away from that. And it seems obnoxious, but
right.
it's the case. So normally people go to the Outer Banks Saturday to Saturday, right? When people take time off, I would think it's some sort of Sunday to Sunday, Saturday to Saturday, Friday to Friday, something like that. With 4th of July being on a Tuesday this year, when were people that took a little bit of a mini vacation, were they just taking the full week? Or are they coming back on a Wednesday? Like it just seems it's very odd, as it's got to screw people up with that.
I think people took the full week or a long weekend and came back maybe on Wednesday.
No,
I don't know.
So we met at Marketers Anonymous, a now defunct networking group. I think COVID killed it. What COVID killed a lot of networking groups and styles and things like that. Mm-hmm. What attracted you to go to that event, and what attracts you to go to events in general? Because if you go on Eventbrite, you go on Meetup, you go on just Facebook events, whatever, there's a ton. It's very hard to figure out, okay, which one's legit, which one's not. Like when you look at an event, what makes you want to go to one of them?
Yeah, so that one was actually my first one. So that one really intrigued me because it was like Marketers Anonymous. It was like, okay, so marketers coming together, not necessarily for any particular like sales pitch or anything like that, which is what I thought. So I was like, oh, I'm going to go and check it out, see what it's all about. And of course, the speaker sounded fabulous. You were talking about kind of how to set yourself apart, right? How to stand out from the crowd, that sort of thing. And I just thought that was pretty neat. I was in sales at the time. I worked right down the street. It was in Norfolk. And I was like, I'm just going to walk there and check it out. So the timing of it, the location, the speaker, I mean, everything kind of fit. So that worked out for me. And then I ended up going to like as many as I could. And again, that was pre-COVID. So we met before the war. So
Was that every week?
Zack,
What was the frequency of that? I don't even
it
remember.
was once a month.
Okay.
And they had really great speakers. I remember, I'm trying to think, they had Allison Maloney come in. They had Daniel Vlecki. They had just all kinds of great people that they would bring in for the speakers, and it was great. It was over at Blue Moon.
Was Zack wearing a jean jacket when he spoke?
I was.
He was wearing a Canadian tuxedo, which is what I like to call it. Jean jacket and jeans. You guys have heard of that, right?
No,
Yeah.
but that's great.
You haven't heard of that?
No, I have.
No.
Oh, you haven't?
Tim.
No. And
where did you grow up? Tim, where did you grow up?
I grew up in I grew up in Buffalo, New York, so I'm surprised I had never heard that before.
Maybe it's a Southern thing. Zack, you grew up here, right?
DC area.
Oh, DC. Okay. Well, that's south enough, but yeah, we call it a Canadian tuxedo. It's so funny.
I have not. The last time I wore a jean jacket was actually with Tim back in February, and I haven't put it on since. I'm not putting it on anytime soon because if you've walked outside at all in the last 15 days, it seems like that Canadian tuxedo is just going to be the Zack Miller jeans. No, not even jeans. Like gym shorts and a t-shirt. Like, we're not even messing around. Like
it's going to look painted on.
Okay, but so there's I mean, when it comes to networking, you host a networking group. We're going to get into that in a little bit. But Tim, what do you have?
I think that where our heads are in the same spot. I'm just curious, how was that with after COVID, during COVID, was the opportunity there once Marketers Anonymous went away? Did you want to fill that need? Yeah. What's the whole genesis of how you got started with HRNG?
Yes, it's funny. Whereas a lot of other networking events kind of started to die off during COVID, that's when ours started to develop. So what happened was, of course, COVID, everybody was forced to stay home. We thought it was only going to be 2 weeks, right? And then it ended up being a very long time. Some friends and I that used to work together, we used to live in Cube World, and we used to be around a lot of people. No surprise, we all used to work at the Pilot. So again, in the ad department. So lots and lots of people around all the time, and being able to collaborate with, the designers, everybody in the IT department. I mean, there's just always people kind of there to be able to work with and collaborate. So, we kind of missed that. And we would jump on the phone. There were 3 of us. So my other coworkers at the time, pre-COVID again, we had all left the Pilot at that point. And, we just kind of got really lonely and felt very isolated. And we started jumping on the phone, and then eventually it became Zoom. So the 3 of us would get on like every couple of days, maybe once a week. And we're like, hey, let's, people started hearing about it, and they're like, I want to get on. Let's get on. And so we started doing this thing about once a month. Started, I think, back in November of 2020 is when it was more than 3 of us. And it just kind of started growing. And I was like, okay, we need to organize this. We need to get this on. Let's do it on LinkedIn, since all of our business and professional connections are on LinkedIn. Let's make a LinkedIn private group, and then we can just tell people when we're going to be on every month. And it just kind of grew. And, we kept thinking, okay, we're going to be back in person anytime now, so we can stop it. And it just kept going and going. And finally, after a year, I think we had at that point maybe close to 150 or 200 people in the group. We finally met in person over at Expansive in Norfolk. And it was like a big party, and it was awesome. We came together, and it was like our 1-year anniversary. And at that point, I was still just kind of doing it for fun. It's all free, like no charge or anything. And it was kind of my way to give back to the community. And I've always loved networking. Like, it's always been super fun for me. Some people hate it. I just love it. I've never met a stranger, don't have any issues going up and talking to people. And my biggest thing is I love kind of introducing people to each other and finding like a commonality. I'll figure out like two people from like opposite ends of the earth, and I'll figure out something that they have in common, and I'll let them know what that is. And that's kind of how I introduce people. And so that's kind of always been the thing. And so after the 1 year anniversary, I'm like, I think I want to keep this going. And Lori and Kim, of course, always kind of there with me. I mean, the three of us were kind of working on this together. Of course, it takes up a lot of time, as you guys can imagine. So kind of juggling it with full-time work and, kids and parenting and all that stuff and animals. You'll probably see one of them in a minute. It was a lot. So kind of had to take a little bit of a step back. We started doing in-person events. COVID kind of had a little spike again, and then went back to doing Zoom. So we would have speakers and things like that. Kind of got more serious about it. Again, I'm probably giving you like a little bit more than what you asked for, but so that's kind of how it evolved. And then finally, I think now we're up to almost 600 people on the LinkedIn group. We've created a website now, literally just went live about a week ago, and turning it into a business now. So I decided, why not do what I really love to do for work? Seems like a lot of people are doing it now. And it's kind of like what I always, when I wasn't working, this is always kind of what I was working on. And people are like, you've got to stop spending so much time on HRNG. And I'm like, why? Like, I love it. I love doing it. It's not like work to me. People are like, well, yeah, just do it. Do that as your job. And I'm like, yeah, why don't I do it as my job? And then I've had people come up to me, why aren't you charging for this? Like, this is such a great event. You put so much time and energy into it. It's like the most fun networking I've ever, done.
Oh.
And people were asking me like, why don't you charge? And I'm like, I will in due time. It's hard to go from like a free to like a paid model. That's kind of tricky. So I've been kind of doing it in steps. So kind of preparing people for it. And
hey, look, if something's good, people will pay for it, right? And so
yes.
HRNG stands for Hampton Roads Networking Group.
Yes.
Why not have another acronym in this area? The town of acronyms, let's just go with it. What does NASA stand for, Tim? Do you even know? As you're wearing a NASA shirt.
You put me on the spot, Zach.
What was it before you said?
No, what is NASA? I don't know what it stands for. I don't even know what's like.
National Air and Space.
Yeah. It's National Aeronautics and Space Administration.
Yeah, there it is.
Oh, you got a cheat code.
Did you Google it?
Someone did. Andrew did. Okay. Sorry to put you on the spot. I wouldn't have known it, so we're both in the same regard.
Well, it's Monday, but not Monday, kind of Monday.
Unclear what day of the week it is, even if our calendars say a specific date. Okay, so I've told you this before, Markella. Getting people to an event is not an easy thing. I don't do a ton of networking like I used to when I don't host any networking events, which is how I did a lot of our stuff back in the day, bringing people to us. But I always tell people like, getting people to an attended event is not an easy feat. I have several clients right now that like go through the Eventbrite, the meetups, the Facebook events, the whatever events. Then they go attend these events and there's one person there, there's two people there, or they'll get an email like the night before saying we're canceling it, and it's just like, wow. So for you to have grown this thing, it's very difficult. And then like I always remember like when I had like we were talking about this, was that last week with the Start Norfolk stuff, Tim, and how many people used to attend that. It's like, I don't even know how I got so many people to attend, 300, 400, 500 people to attend some of these events. It's like, like
amazing.
It is. And like, you look back, you reflect, you're like, damn. So like, obviously appreciative of that and to have been able to do that, but like to see other people now doing events and stuff like that, like I get it. Like, and Tim gets it. He's put on, hundreds of events too. Like it's hard to get people to the table. It's hard to get people to drive somewhere. It's hard to get people to show up on a Zoom call. It's hard. It's hard to get someone to like your post on the internet, right?
Everything is hard.
Yeah. And
Hard to
so
get
to
reviews.
hard it's hard to get all these things.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people are like, oh, I could just do that. And it's like, okay, cool, go do it.
Yeah.
And then when no
And
one
we've
shows up
said
at
it
your
several
party,
times. We've all done so many events that we make it look easy that everyone then thinks it's super easy to do.
Yeah.
And then they learn that it's not.
Right.
I think the hardest part is to get people to come back a second, third, fourth time. But everything about it's hard. What do you find the most difficult aspect?
I think it is getting, it's really funny. I think it's getting the introverted people, the more introverted people to engage. And a lot of them tend to come to events by themselves. And, I kind of tend to see them standing off, in the corner by themselves. So I try to get them to engage, and, they're getting coffee or they're eating and they're kind of standing to the side. And sometimes when we go around, so a lot of my events, we go around and do introductions if it's a small enough group, and they'll step out.
oh
They'll
wow,
step out during introductions.
I like those. Those are my favorite people, just because.
Yeah, me too.
If you go up and you talk to them, that you're now their savior because
but
they don't have to feel awkward.
that's why the Netflix question or something like that for an introvert is good, right? They
Yes.
probably aren't there, like, and so people
Yes.
like, because they don't know how to answer their elevator pitch about something like that. And most people
Correct.
actually suck at their elevator pitches. Let's be honest, right? But so if you go up to that person and you're like, hey, like, what are you watching on Netflix? What game are you watching? What game are you playing? What is that? Like, it looks like you're in the IT field. What are you building? Like something that's more about what they like. They are clearly going to be able to talk about that, and it's easier for them to. And so that's, and then you've opened that door to Mr. or Mrs. Introvert. And
and it's funny because sometimes even the people that you think are outgoing, that post regularly, that like to post photos of themselves, even videos, they are not always the most outgoing people. Some of those are like closet introverts, you know what I mean? So it's kind of funny when you get, really? See, I had no idea. No idea at all.
I don't know that I'm an introvert. Nicole Campbell said, what is the word that
saw her a couple weeks ago.
An ambivert? She told us about that.
Oh, yeah. I've heard that.
Which is a both. I'm probably a little bit of both. Look, I don't like.
Are you ambivalent to being an introvert or extrovert?
I think for me, Myers-Briggs. I'm a 49 introvert. So it's just I'm right in the middle as well.
I just I don't mind talking to people. And if someone came up, I would talk to them. I don't know. It's very weird. Like when I used to do certain talks, like I would get very nervous. Like,
really?
Oh yeah. Like there was times where I'd have to go have a couple beers beforehand before I could talk, because I'm just like, I'm too nervous for this.
That must have been a long time ago.
I was there for you, Zach.
Yeah. Well, I haven't done a talk like that.
Is that how y'all met, when he used to go get his beers? You were there, Tom?
Pretty much.
I was always,
Were you the bartender?
I mean, it wouldn't be an obnoxious amount, like maybe a beer, half a beer. I remember the first State of the Startup community address, I had a beer beforehand because I was super nervous, because I haven't given a talk like that since high school or something like that.
Yeah.
Now I recommend people who give talks give the exact same talk over and over and over again, so that you can
makes it a lot easier.
But guess what?
Yeah.
Guess who does that? Comedians, musicians.
Oh yeah.
The greatest performers in the world. They're all doing the same politicians probably. They're all giving the same damn speech over and over and over again.
That's right.
Guess what's changing? The venue, the audience, not the content. So the content's the content.
Right.
The audience is the variable in that. But you're
absolutely right.
Most people double dip that, and they create completely new content and a completely new audience every single time. It's just so hard to remember that, to try to become that every single time. That's a lot of work on the people. Do that one thing one time, $1 billion.
Yeah. That said, Zach, that's the hardest part for me when I go to. Zach knows I go to a lot of concerts. So the difficult thing for me is when I go see a concert outside of the Hampton Roads area. Or if you see clips of the same concert that you saw from a different area, and then they share the same story in between songs, or they share,
Yes.
it's just,
Oh yeah. It's such a
it's
bummer.
not
You're
as
like,
authentic
oh
at that. Yeah.
yes.
But
Okay, the story could be a little different, but the songs that you're going to play.
well, I mean, the set list is a set list. So, that's, I mean, with,
Yeah.
with all the computers and lights and how everything works, the set list kind of has to stay the same. But so the only variable for the most part is what's said in between the songs. So
Right.
when you hear the same things in different cities,
Yeah.
it's a little less authentic to me.
I
But
know. I'm like,
to
oh, they're
to our
fake. They're
point,
such fakes.
yeah.
Or if they mess up
But,
the city, they're
well,
like,
I mean,
hey, Austin, and they're in Virginia.
yeah. Well, I think that's funny. It just said on the set list they have in bold letters what city they're in, so that
No, I know.
they don't make that mistake, but
No,
yet
I
they
know.
do.
Yeah. I know. I used to go to a lot of shows too. Again, pre
No,
kids, pre COVID.
Tim is like the concert goer of the year.
What?
I think he goes to an award. Well, like when I saw you, Tim, to the example, when at Parliament, is that what it was called? At Harborfest? Parliament?
Parmalee?
Parmalee, yes. He went on a 10-minute little story about his mom and the house and all that stuff. There's no way he's not telling that at every place, right? The little story, like there was little things. I think he said something about how he had played here before. I think that's authentic and stuff like that. But like,
sure,
it's comedians definitely doing the same set over and over and over again.
Well, yeah, I mean, there's a reason that you're not allowed to bring your cell phones into comedy shows. I mean, when they're testing out new material, they don't want all that stuff being leaked out. They're adjusting things and.
Yeah, it's true. No, I know. And yeah, I've done that before where I've seen like a show somewhere more than once, like multiple times. And it's like, oh man, come on.
When I used to be
story.
When I used to be a fan of Green Day, they used to blow up their set every single time at the end. That's what they did. They take the guitars to and everything. I'm like, all right, well, is this what these clowns do every single time? I guess so. And as a 15-year-old, I thought it was cool. But like to Tim's point, so there are pros and cons to that strategy.
After 20 shows, you're like, can you do something new?
What's this like? That's a lot of you're killing
just
a lot
like
of
wasting a lot of really good equipment, guys. Come on.
All right.
How dare you?
That's so funny. I was going back to what you guys were saying about introvert, extrovert. I mean, don't you guys feel like with COVID, everyone's kind of become more of an introvert? Like it's just kind of more natural
to stay home.
I see. I find
or the opposite
that people have lost all manners and etiquette, and so then when they're out, I mean, it's just people lost the ability to do anything polite. I mean, everyone, it just like, no, I don't know. It's really different now.
Yeah. I feel like it's split, right? There's like a dichotomy. Like, so like, I feel like people that maybe felt very isolated and missed people, I feel like they're almost more polite now. And they're more like, oh my gosh, like, thank you. Like, I appreciate you and all this stuff. Like, thank you. And then like other people that like just realize they hate people
Zack
more.
wishes that was the case.
Yeah. I feel like people are like, oh, I just want to be alone with my animals or whatever, Then they're just like still in their sweatpants and they're just like miserable to be out even for a minute. So it's kind of, I just think it's funny, but as extroverted as I am, I feel like I've become just a little more introverted, like after COVID. That's just, that was just my observation about myself.
The key to me is how close is that hand sanitizer machine that I can get to after touching someone.
Yes, we've all become germaphobes, right? Like most of us.
I don't think Tim is. Like Tim.
No.
I'm way nowhere near what I was like 3 years ago. Like I went to the casino the other day. That might be the filthiest place in the world. I mean, touching stuff. People
how nasty are those?
Hey,
chips?
now.
Oh,
hey, we had an event there, and there. So
look, I'm not saying I don't
great.
like the casino. I'm just saying how dirty is that place? How dirty is the things that you're touching there? The chips, you're constantly touching the pushing the button on the
slot machines.
You're getting cards. How often do you think those cards are cleaned? The answer is not very often, and if they are, it's not often enough. But I like rivers. I appreciate that they're here.
It's a really cool place. Have you been, Tim?
No, I've not.
Oh, you have to go. It's very cool. Have you been to the restaurants, Zach?
I went to the Chinese restaurant.
Okay.
That's it. Yeah.
But not, did you go down the hallway that says Portsmouth to the other ones?
I haven't, but I know people who have, and they say it's pretty good.
Okay. Because that's like a whole nother part of the casino that
I saw that they've already celebrated their millionth visitor.
Mhm.
Yeah,
That did not take long.
I'm surprised it took that long.
I am too.
Oh, really?
Because I was there for the opening. Well, it's funny. They're supposed to have like a VIP kind of, and then like a soft opening, and then it got pushed back because they were still kind of building.
Mm-hmm.
And then I think what happened was they combined the two, because I was like, wow, okay, so this is the VIP. I mean, it was like wall to wall, and so I think they combined the two events. I was like, wow, this place it's crazy.
Well, it's my understanding during that time too is smoking was still 100% allowed in the place, and it was quite brutal in there.
It was never 100, so I think smoking was only allowed. I think on the carpet. This sounds kind of backwards. I think only on the carpeted areas.
All the gaming area.
Yes, but now
not in the food.
Yeah, now it's different. Now it's a lot less. Was it 100%? I didn't think it was.
100%
crazy.
But yeah, so now it's a lot better. I mean, but their ventilation is pretty decent, and I'm very like sensitive to smoke, and it didn't really bother me. It bothered me more the first time, and then when we had our event there, it was, I mean,
not as crowded, not as rowdy.
I feel like I don't have enough. I can't afford to gamble. I can't afford to smoke, and I certainly couldn't afford to do both.
But it is a fun place to go. But anyway,
I want to watch a football game there because they got a lot of big screens. Okay, so one of the things that I think is a challenge for an event organizer, if you don't have your own space, which most people, and even if they do, it's probably not the correct space for this. Is the venue, is finding a venue that, especially if you don't just want to like go to a bar, right? Going to a bar and getting people there is one thing. But if you have like, I don't know, you want to do some networking, you want some AV access, you want that away from everywhere else. That's why I think Marketers Anonymous at the Blue Moon Tap House worked, because they had a separate room. And I don't know if they had to pay for it. I can't remember if they did or anything like that. But
they had to spend a certain amount.
Okay. So there was a lunch in there that people would pay for themselves. And so there was a minimum, I guess. But are there other venues that can do that? Like, it's all.
I'm glad you're bringing this up, Zach, because that was on my list of questions as well. This area is tough for locations, and I'm curious what your take is.
Yeah, so we haven't, I'm trying to think if we've had to pay for anything yet. We kind of came across that recently because we were trying to have an event at a co-working space, and I'm not a member, so they wanted to charge. And again, I haven't brought in $1 yet. Well, that's not true. I've had one person sign up for membership so far. Yay, got my first member. So I've just been kind of putting money into it so far. So yeah, we try not to pay for space. But we try to, if it's like lunchtime or breakfast or whatever, we try to be good patrons of, if it's like a coffee shop or whatever, we try to purchase food and whatnot as much as we can. But yeah, there's not a whole lot of kind of free space, if you will, unless it's like a restaurant or something like that. But we do have, like there are co-working spaces that just kind of want to get people in there and show, basically show people the location, because
get people in there to show them. Things. But it's odd that a co-working space would try to charge in that kind of regard, because I haven't seen a completely packed co-working space, and most of the people that would be coming in, I would assume, as someone who's hosted over 1,000 events over the years, would be new people that could potentially be a client. And so why charge someone $300 when if you could get one person in 1 month to become a member, you've already paid for that thing. It's odd how money is a weird thing, right? And so like my email that went out on Monday in my newsletter was about I don't know if either of you guys saw it, but I went to the Tides game the other day. It was 50-cent hot dog night, and it was crazy packed, and there was lines galore.
My husband was there.
I think they sold 20,000, 30,000, 25,000 hot dogs. It was packed.
Wow.
I've never seen it that packed. It just makes you wonder, like, okay, the ticket is about $17 a pop. I didn't go there actually for Wiener night. I went there because it was my wife's. I just wanted to say that was fun.
I hope you didn't go there for Wiener night.
Now the
I
kids
feel like I need to say the way your word wiener now so that we can know.
I know.
Wiener.
The kids apparently call them glizzies now. Glizzies, something like that. Which
that
apparently
again?
glizzies.
The kids call them
GLIZZY.
Hold on, I gotta ask
That's what they
I have
call.
to ask my teenage kids about it.
That's what they
Glizzies?
call hot dogs. Glizzies, yeah. GL. But okay, so my point about pricing this is it's if you go to most Tides games, they're not very well attended. I would say maybe 30% occupancy.
Right.
Now, if a stadium can get a crap ton of people there, almost a sellout, and they can get people to pay, your absorbent amount for food, okay, whatever. People are willing to pay it. You have a packed house. I can't fight that. You're obviously doing pretty well. But for like these venues that are clearly below capacity, significantly below capacity, would it make sense for them to actually make more appropriate pricing than have, a $7 hot dog, an $18 dilly? Like, does that really make sense? Like, I went to an Admirals game. It was a $35 whiskey and Coke for my friend. That's obnoxious. Like, it's
oh my God, yeah.
Why are you charging that? You have 2,000 people in a 10,000 person arena. You clearly are getting the stuff in there. And so money's a weird thing in that. And so kind of going back to the co-working space, it's like, why would you charge for that when you're not at full capacity? You want people to see it. Don't you think it would make more sense to get 30 to 50, maybe 100 people to come see this space, and maybe one of them becomes a member? And it's odd to me that people don't think that way.
And to your point with the $35 whiskey, I mean, it's like they've just got the wrong formula, right? They're trying to recoup their money through other ways. So they're trying to recoup some of the money with a $35 whiskey as opposed to attracting people a different way, right? So to get more money. So
I'm not saying doing 50-cent glizzies every single night. I just learned that word.
Are you just trying to throw Z's in everything? Because you're like, dillies, glizzies.
You want to know who told me? I learned this this morning. I learned this glizzy word this morning.
You know how he does that, Tim?
Yeah. They all hate it. Drew Keever from Advisor Finder.
Oh, really?
He's like, he saw the email, asked me a question about it, and he said, well, how many glizzies, how was glizzy night or something like that? I'm like, what the hell is a glizzy? So I asked him. He didn't reply by the time I looked. So I looked it up.
Joey Chestnut call them glizzies?
Probably. Anyway.
Oh my God, y'all are.
I'm not saying do a 50-cent glizzy night every night. I'm just saying, like, make that more appropriate.
How many times can Zack say glizzy in one podcast? Okay. It just
seems like pricing obviously is a difficult thing, but like
it is. And the same holds true. Like when you trying to find a place for 100 people or more, then you have the next challenge. Then you have to look. Then you go into you're entering the hotel space, and that's even worse. They want to charge crazy numbers. They offer zero selection, and how I would imagine even more so to your point, Zack. Those ballrooms remain vacant probably 95% of the time.
Yeah, I wondered about that too. So I went to an event.
They're not cheap.
Last week.
No.
And it was so I still go to networking events, even though I have a networking group.
Sure.
Guess I probably took away one of your questions. Maybe not. But people are like, "Oh, you're here," and I'm like, "Yeah." I'm a networking junkie. Like, do you think I'm only gonna go to my events? But yeah, it was at a hotel, and it was, it could have been because there was a storm going on like right before. I'm gonna give them the benefit of the doubt, but I thought it was going to be a lot more well attended, and kind of to what you and I were talking about a couple weeks ago, Zack. It was just kind of ho hum, and I think it was supposed to be in a ballroom, but I don't know. They were having like AV issues or something, and so it was kind of like in the hallway to the ballroom. It was kind of weird, and I was like, okay, and it was kind of people just standing around kind of cliquish because you can tell it's the same people that go, to an event. And it was a really nice event, catered and everything, but it was like kind of lacking something. I don't know. I can't put my finger on it. Again, it could have been the storm.
Events are hard. Like every event has some
there were
sort
a lot
of
of people. There were a lot of people, but for this particular event, I thought there'd be a lot more. And again, it could have been the storm, but so I think. Go ahead.
As a place that rains more than Seattle, people are pretty afraid of the rain here.
They are, and it was in Virginia Beach. It was at the ocean front. No, it's true, especially if it's raining and you have to go through the tunnel, right? It's like everybody hits the brakes as soon as you go through the tunnel. It's the craziest thing I've seen, but so yeah, I think like with my events, I think the thing that I try to do is try to make it slightly different every time. Something interactive, something fun, something, where people are going to talk and not necessarily just kind of stand. I don't know. That's kind of the one thing I found is people like to just talk to people they know. And a lot of these events that I was going to prior to HRNG, it was like, I kind of felt maybe like an outsider. Like I couldn't really butt into people's conversations because I could tell they had known each other for a long time. And
so the clique is a real thing, is what you're saying.
Oh my God. Yeah. Are you kidding? Like a networking clique? That's worse than high school.
Oh, Mean Girls all over again. Do you find how either of you can answer this, but like when you see Click City in there, like how do you maneuver yourself in there to try and start? Because it's people could look at that as rude. Like they could say like, oh, maybe they're being standoffish anyway. Like maybe I don't know. Like how do you roll up in there?
Yeah. So like it was funny because I tried to roll up into one group because I don't care. I mean, I really, what do I have to lose? So I don't care.
Rebel.
So I tried to roll up into a group of two women, and it's awkward, but you kind of look at their name tag to see if you know the company, or it's super awkward. But when they don't make eye contact, I'll just say like, hi, how's it going? And this one group of two, and I was with another friend too. They didn't make eye contact. They didn't move. And I forget what I just said something like, oh, did you guys try the, I don't know, whatever food it was. Did you try the meatballs or whatever it was? I said something stupid. And they just kind of looked at me and then carried on talking. And I was like, okay, that's fine. Like, I didn't even want to talk to y'all anymore.
I mean,
I said that in my head, not out loud. But I was just like, that's fine. Okay. And then I went on to another group and they were all talking and laughing and stuff. I was like, okay, that's my group right there.
So instead of the
meatballs, I can't
meatballs,
believe these people, like, obviously they know each other, but they didn't go there for the same reasons I did. I went there to meet new people. They just went there to either check a box and talk amongst themselves, maybe get some free food.
That's the thing. Our nephew, he worked for a congressman up in Northern Virginia, and the young people, they just go from networking event to networking event to get the free food because they can't afford to buy the food based on the salaries that they have. Yeah.
Wow.
That's smart. So instead of asking the meatball question, you could have said, "Did you guys try the glizzies?" I had to get that in one last time.
They didn't have glizzies. Zack with the Z.
Obviously,
what do they call the miniature glizzies?
Little glizzies.
Cocktail glizzies.
Little glizz.
Little glizzies.
I'm sorry.
Zach, the show is off the rails.
This is off the hizzy for shizzy.
I blame Drew Keever 100%. I blame him for being the person.
We will clip this and make sure that we send this, although he's probably watching anyway. But
you're right.
Did it cut my hizzy for shizzy comment?
It did. So
damn it.
Okay, so
wanted that in there.
We'll say it.
I said it's off the hizzy for shizzy.
There you go. Okay, while we're on this topic about icebreaker questions, you know my question.
Yeah.
I mean, I probably said that the first time I met you. Do you have one now? Do you work on that? Like, do you have a first icebreaker question? What is it? I
just use yours. What are you watching? No, I don't say what are you watching on Netflix. I'll say, do you what's your favorite streaming platform?
Okay.
I'll say, are you Hulu, Apple TV? What do what's your favorite streaming? And 9 times out of 10, they'll say Netflix. And I'll say, what are you watching on Netflix?
I appreciate you taking that.
I'm just kidding.
Oh.
No, but I know it's funny. I noticed Jake asked that. I heard him ask that question to like 2 different people at his networking event that I went to a couple weeks ago.
Jake Maines stealing
And
my
I was
thunder.
like,
oh boy.
I was like, Zack in action. There it is. But yeah, no, it's a
what
great
is your
question.
favorite? What's your favorite streaming platform?
I think it's still Netflix, but I was definitely an Apple fan for a while. We were watching.
They do good stuff. Everything they put out is good.
And then there's, a little bit on whatchamacallit. Do you guys watch The Boys?
Oh, on Amazon Prime.
Yeah, Amazon Prime. Yeah.
You've watched that, right, Tim?
No, I've not.
Oh my god.
It ain't safe for work, but it is wild.
That is like one of the best shows.
It's funky. Oh yeah.
So crazy.
It's like bad superheroes, and they don't give.
They're like honey badgers. They're honey badgers.
Yeah. It's
no shizzies, gizzies.
That is a good show.
It's a good show.
I've had a feeling you would like that one, Zach. But yeah, it's like a dude show, wouldn't you say? It's more of a dude show.
I don't know that it's 2023. I don't know that it's appropriate for me to answer that question.
Okay. I'm just saying, but like normally I wouldn't like even like I'd be scrolling through and I'd be like, Stuart my husband might like that show. But then he was watching it and I was like really intrigued. I was like, wow, that looks like a really cool show. And I started watching it. It's intense. Huh?
Anyone that's into intense inappropriate TV, this is the show for you. It's definitely not this guy, whatever PG high is, whatever that is. I don't know what that would be considered. Rated R, rated
NC-17 or something.
Yeah, it's got to be. There's no way.
It has to be. Yeah. Yeah, I'd still say Netflix just for sheer quantity, but Hulu's great too. I like them all. Like even HBO. Succession
I feel like
is awesome.
Yeah,
I
it's
love
now
Succession.
called Max.
There's so many. But on Apple TV, God, I can't remember. Oh, Severance. Do y'all watch Severance, or did y'all watch Severance?
Yeah.
There's only one season. Did you watch it, Zach?
Never heard of it.
Oh my God, so good.
It's trippy.
Yeah, it's really trippy. It's a futuristic work.
But you see the tangent that we've gone on just from this? This is why that question is so important.
Because everyone's got so many.
If people want to poo-poo it, and I'm just like, hey, like, cool, but like, you can go on tangents with them. Now you have something to talk about because you're probably watching something too. Mm-hmm. What's the next concert you're going to, right? That's another one that you could do. What is a new one that I like to do is do you remember the first video you ever watched on YouTube? Then they have to think back.
Oh my gosh, yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah, so like there's all these little icebreakers that get people out of their comfort zone, no matter if they're introvert, extrovert, or ambivert. It seems to have worked over the years.
Which is interesting because we have an event coming up like in 2 weeks, and it's a speed networking, and this is like our second one, and so I come up with like a list of questions in case people get stumped. It's only 3 minutes, but some people, believe it or not, might just sit there and be like, I don't know what else to ask. I asked what they do for a living. I asked where, so I actually come up with like a list of different questions. So I might actually ask you for some different ones than what I have.
You got it.
But yeah, it's like, you can't get too personal, but those are great questions. Yeah. No, the concert one's on there. I did use your Netflix one on there, of course. But it's all good stuff. But yeah, again, you ask an introvert or any of those people, and they're going to have answers to these questions, and it's not like a yes or no answer. Yeah. It's great. And then this is the funny thing. People, like if you're in a group or at a bar or whatever, people are going to hear their favorite show being talked about, and of course they have to put in their 2 cents, right? They're like, wait a minute, no, that character is not a good person, or whatever it is. It's a great question.
Zack, what did you think about the rocket fuel icebreaker that we did at the launch pad?
The rocket fuel. I don't remember.
When people first walked into the party, they had to
Yeah.
signature drink.
Yes. So Tim had.
I have to hear about this one.
It's obviously, now that I know what he's talking about, it makes sense. Okay, so the Launchpad had their 1 year anniversary, and it was Paul's Deli catered it, which was downstairs. This is in Newtown, Williamsburg area. And they had like a box of Fireball.
Yeah.
And they basically, everyone that would walk through would take a shot of Fireball, and just to get the party started. And
that's a good idea.
I think that loosened things up for a couple of people, and I don't remember if I partaked in that. I don't typically partake. Yeah, I don't know how to speak. I don't know if I engaged in that because I don't typically drink liquor. Just does not do well with my body. So if I would assume I took it for you, Tim, but I don't remember it. But I remember that was a fun night. So thank you for that.
I just thought of a new catchphrase for you and a pun at the same time. Take one for the Tim, not the team. Okay, sorry.
There you go.
You took one for the Tim. Sorry. My stepson is like comes up with all these really hilarious puns, so I get it from him.
It's funny.
What's your how do you determine if an event was successful?
So I think if new people came to the event, I think that's a success. I think if people leave and tell me they had a great time, I think if people made new connections, I think if the person that was hosting said, this was awesome, this was a great turnout, thank you. I almost always get people messaging me after an event saying something like, another great event, thank you so much, I met so many new people. So I think any of those factors, I can only think of one event that I was a little disappointed with, honestly, since we started doing in-person events, and even the Zoom calls. I mean, I think we had maybe like 6 or 7 people on one, and I was kind of bummed because I was like, oh, there's not that many people on this one. But honestly, it was the most fun because I think even the smaller groups, I think people tend to equate like size, like, okay, let me get this straight. Number of people, let me back up for a second. Number of people at an event with success, and I don't really agree with that. And I think that with the smaller groups, you tend to really get to know people better, and people tend to open up and be themselves more.
Yeah. If getting people to attend events is very difficult, I've always said that once you start an event for the first time, the gauge is the third event. Because you're going to get a lot of people to go to the first one, hopefully, because you have a network that you can invite. Hopefully they come back a second time, or other people are talking about it. But that third event is where you gauge, okay, this is a hit or miss.
Interesting.
Yeah.
If you think about these numbers from a TV perspective, typically shows are heavily marketed in the beginning, but then die off, right? Yeah. And so the shows that do really well are the ones that they actually might go hockey stick style, where they're actually not that popular to start and then become popular as people talk about them. And so it's like when you're looking at the numbers in these things, like being consistent is very, very critical. And I think that's, you might have a high one time, you might have a low one time, but basically being steady, maybe a little bit of an incline is the key to the game. And it ain't easy to do.
No, and see, ours are not always at the same time. So like we have some in the morning, sometimes they're happy hours. The happy hours typically do really well. We have like
because you have people all over and you want people to be able to go at different times, and that's how you just decided to do that?
I think because we always would do them kind of like in the mornings, actually, when we started off doing Zoom, I think we would do them at like 11:30 or 12, if I remember, because so people could do it like on their lunch breaks. And then we started doing in-person events kind of in the mornings, like 9:30, 10. So, I mean, I'll be honest with you, when I started it, kind of one of the reasons why I decided to keep doing it and doing it in person was because I couldn't make it to all the events. I have kids and I have to get them off to school, and people were having like 7:30 and 8 o'clock events. I can't make it to those. I've got a husband that works day and night, and so I've got to be like the transportation for the kids. And
even if you could make it, I wouldn't want to attend that event anyway. I'm just like, come on, it's too damn early.
Well, it's just kind of early, and so I was like, okay, I want to make it so that people that have kids or have other responsibilities in the morning can either maybe get, if they have to get into the office, whatever, get into the office, get started, and then maybe leave and go, or at least do some work and then leave. So that's why we do a lot of ours like at 9:30, and that seems to be a pretty good sweet spot. And then 9:30 or 10, and then we'll do a happy hour like at 4. So that way people that do want to get out of the office can still leave early. And at least that's the feedback we've gotten. We've taken a lot of polls. We've gotten a lot of feedback. But then we do it kind of like an hour and a half, 2-hour period, so that, if you just can slip out for a little bit, but it's very casual compared to other networking groups. If you can slip in for a little bit and just pop in, pop out, you don't have to stay the whole time. But I think the networking, the happy hours, very popular. The first one we had was at Grain, and it was not, I'm just going to go out on a limb and say it was not organized at all. It was very kind of like haphazard, and they've got that little middle section, and I didn't even tell them we were coming. I was just like, okay, we'll just set up here. And it wasn't anything. Like, I don't even think I had people sign in. And I think we had like 60 people. It was pretty incredible. And I think that is probably still one of the largest attended events that we've had so far. And it was awesome. So it's like, and then you plan like crazy, and then you don't get as many, but then you have a great event still. We had one at this place called Gypsy Roots Collective. It's in Norfolk. It's right near where Hope House is, in that little crazy little like Olney and Bush Street where they intersect, across from the Harrison House Opera. Mm-hmm. And we were doing this thing called laughing yoga, and you're supposed to breathe like really. I've got a video on it. I've got to send it to y'all. But again, people that don't normally do that sort of thing, and everyone's like laughing and breathing, and it was a small group, but it was so much fun. I mean, I'm telling you, it was. And if it was a bigger group, I don't think everybody would have participated. And so, again, both events I would say are very successful, but very different.
Yeah, I think that's one of the hardest aspects is when you're hosting an event, you have to focus on the people that are there, not on those that are not. Because if you don't focus on the people that are there, they need to have a great time, and they need to come back next time, and they need to bring a friend next time. Yes. And so many people get caught up on the number or the lack of attendees, and you really got to focus on who's there. And it's tough to bring your A game and really be that hostess of the mostest. Yeah. When it could be sparse.
But that also could be something that you can't control, right? You might have
for sure.
Right. So like the marketing that you did to get people there and they didn't show up, it doesn't mean that they didn't see it, and they might not be showing up to that event this time. I feel like I've said this on the show before, but like Jay Billis, who's an NCAA commentator for ESPN, he either wrote this in his book or something like that, but he was doing like Division III, really low level games when he first started. And someone was like, why are you so energetic in this? Why are you so dedicated to making this right? He's like, because someone's family is listening to this, and I want to give them the best damn, commentating job that they can get. Right. And I know that someone's listening, and I'm going to give them that damn thing. Right. It's like, exactly. Yes, I would rather be calling, he went to Duke. I'd much rather be calling a Duke game, but I'm not. I'm calling, the Winston-Salem whoever's, versus the, Norfolk whoever's, and that's okay. I'm going to do the best play-by-play that I can give there, and I'm going to give my A+ game, and that's it. And so that's really good advice too, Tim, that you're saying is like, hey, like
Yeah.
the people who showed up, they showed up. Give them the attention that they deserve by being there, because your marketing did work for them.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, like I said, every event is different, but I would not call any event like a failure because it's not the number that I expected. And so I have these events called pop-ups. They're not really pop-ups like where it's like a location that's like temporarily here. I call them pop-ups because they might pop up at the last minute. We might just add it. In fact, we're doing one next week, as a matter of fact. I'm assuming they're not going to be as well attended because I've only got like a week to promote them. So, and that's okay because I want them to be smaller so they can be more intimate, if that makes sense. So I'm not as worried about the numbers. I do have some members that are constantly mentioning it when it's their time to go around, and it's kind of annoying. And even like when they post something like a review or something, it's like, oh my gosh, come on. Like, you're not paying for this, right? But, to each his own. If they find value in it, they're still coming to everyone. So they're finding value in it other ways.
Events are really, really tough. I guess for me, my the way that I determine if an event is successful for me is when I don't get an opportunity to at least say hello to all the people that I wish to say hello to.
Yeah. Same.
So
to me, it's if I ordered the food correctly, so that there's none to take home. I don't know. That's just
well, but so we touched on it at the very beginning, and in terms of like with the event that we put on, we charge $5, $10, primarily just to have a little skin in the game, because when you order all this food and then when people no show and then all that food goes to waste, I mean, that's just that is just a pet peeve of mine. We don't waste food. So if you don't show up, you still paid for it.
What's the number? If you pay $5 or more, 95% of people show up. If it's $5 or less, only 30% of people show up.
Yeah,
so $5 is the threshold for people.
Really? I've never heard that stat.
Yeah.
I think Eventbrite actually put it out.
Yeah, it's been a couple of years since they've done that. I don't know if it's higher or lower, but I mean, there's something to be said to charge. You have a more accurate understanding of who's going to roll through. What's something we haven't talked about that you want to talk about?
I don't know. Go ahead, try me. Ask me.
Well, let's just leave on this. For those that are interested in attending an event, HRNG, Hampton Roads Networking Group, they go to hrngevents.com. First time goer, like, what should they expect? What should they anticipate?
Lots of fun. It's probably going to be a lot more casual than what you're used to with other networking groups, maybe. The people are friendly and outgoing, and you'll probably leave with a lot of business cards, Tim, if you ever come to an event. So I'm sorry about that.
Well, if there's meaning behind it, that's cool. But
I know. I'm just kidding. I heard you.
Yeah.
I heard you chatting before I got on.
We appreciate your time, Markella.
Yeah.
Continued
Thank
success.
you guys. This was awesome.
Continued success with the event, and
yeah,
we'll see you at one soon.
Yeah,
sounds good. I'll make sure I have glizzies at the next one.
Lots of glizzies.
I'm there.
All right. Thanks, guys.